Hello and welcome to today's webcast, Achieving Accounts Payable Optimization, Change Management, the Secret Ingredient. We're excited to have everyone on board this morning or this afternoon, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. I'm Anne-Marie Cochia, Director of Marketing at Canon Business Process Services, and I'll be moderating for today's webcast. Before we started, I do have a few quick housekeeping notes. To background noise, all participants have been muted. You will only be able to hear our presenters speak. If you'd like to ask a question, you may do so at any time by clicking the Q&A button in the text dashboard on the right of your screen. Type your question and click Send, and we'll address your question before the end of the webcast. Because we only have limited time, we do apologize in advance if we are unable to answer or address your question online, but we'll be sure to follow up on any unanswered questions after the program. Lastly, we're sharing an archived version of today's program as well as the deck with all of you after the session is complete. So let's get to our agenda. Today we're going to be talking about accounts payable optimization, the case for change, change management, what is it, why you need it, change management in an AP organization and transformation. We're going to provide a case study and then give you some key takeaways. Now, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we do find at the beginning, we do want to tell you a little bit about who we are. For those of you not familiar with Canon Business Process Services, we're a business unit of Canon USA. Our services include business process outsourcing, such as accounts payable services, processes such as student financial aid, claims processing, and other paper-intensive workflows. We manage document back-office processing, such as imaging records and mail, provide office support services, such as reception, hospitality, and AV. We discovery services from consulting all the way to technology and actually managing the project. We also provide facility management services and services such as campus logistics and materials management. Over 9 years, we've been recognized as one of the top 100 global outsourcing providers in the outsourcing industry. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed panelists for today. Kozar has over 20 years of experience in operational accounting and finance, organizational change management, and consulting. Great deal of experience driving business process efficiency and organizational transformation. Canon creates customized solutions that combine people, process, and technology to enable clients to achieve their vision for accounts payable. We're so glad to have you on board today, and thank you for carving out this time to share your expertise.
And thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us today. Today we'll talk about the need to change in accounts payable functions, address the challenges that exist in many organizations today. We'll also talk about a topic related to this that's often overlooked, critical to the success of transporting accounts payable and change management. Back in 2014, Canon Business Process Services partnered with OFM to conduct a study to look at some of the challenges and pain points that organizations are facing today. Because here, there's quite a few pain points. 80% of invoices are still arriving in paper equivalent formats. 4 or 5 organizations process over half of their invoices manually, and straight processing is really limited. There are other pain points such as invoice receipt entry, approval routing, matching. Desire out there to improve cash flow management, have better visibility into the AP lifecycle, really transition accounts payable from an administrative function in the organization to something of a more collaborative and strategic partner. All will influence an organization's decision to say, I want to initiate an AP change initiative. We offer a solution to address some of these challenges. Now, I'm going to take a minute to walk through our steps to accounts payable optimization. As we're going to do later in our talk today, is show you how, with steps like this, how you can apply the change management theory and tools that I'm going to share with you to each of these transition points in an optimization initiative. With a worst-case scenario, which is our pink box, everything's manual. We have manual invoice processing, manual approval process, manual reporting, basically visibility. These are the scenarios where your invoice visibility is calling someone and asking, where's it on your desk? The reason for that is, I'm just going to highlight two metrics. Cycle time, I've seen greater than 30 days. Cost invoice can be greater than 30, and I've actually seen it as high as $52 per invoice. So Canon recommends that we take a first step in our solution. Simple step from an implementation standpoint, but it might challenge from a management standpoint, as we'll talk about later. With this step, to simply centralize the invoice receipt, digit those invoices, apply CR technology and extract data, conduct pre-process validation and GL coding, you can cut your cycle time in half and your cost per invoice nearly in half, just by taking that one step. More automation and more optimization into the process, take a look at introducing workflow for approvals and exception handling, the entry points that we have with ERP, and being able to leverage some of the business rules that exist there. You might want to consider use of a global shared services model, something to optimize the labor to go along with the optimized processes and automation. And the automated reporting and dashboards. At this, you further reduce your cycle times per invoice is cut to a third of what it was when we started looking at manual processing. Some organizations may choose to stop here, but we recommend that you look at continuous improvement and just automating the process as it is today. Go beyond adding process improvement to go along with that technology, and look at ways that you can add value to the organization as a whole, to the whole enterprise, and some of your outside customers as well, such as your suppliers. The one to do this is to have a vendor portal. That provides supplier self-service, for access to it, for electronic invoicing, PO flip, for advanced metrics and analytics. It's not important to accounts payable, but that's important to other people in your organization, such as procurement for spend analytics, finance, treasury as it relates to cash. And very important, you now have end-to-end process visibility. So the jump in benefits in terms of cost per invoice declining from stage to stage isn't dramatic as you see it in some of the earlier stages. It really lets you to become a world-class AP organization. To have us take a closer look at change itself. So we the fact that there are challenges out there in AP organizations today. I know that there are solutions to reduce or eliminate those challenges. In order to do this, an organization needs to change. So change. The process of moving from a current state to a desired future state through a disruptive movement through transition. You'll note I highlighted the word disruptive. It's to understand that change by its very nature is disruptive. You expect it. Disruption in productivity, disruption in work processes. It's good when we make a change. So yourself, if there's in making changes, we may change. Bottom line, the risk of not changing is greater than the risk associated with changing, and we have tools like change management to help us move through a positive change in our organization. So many of you know or heard of Jack Welch, who was chairman of GE back in 1981 through, I think, 2001, known for his aggressive approach to change. And he once said, change before you have to. Basically recognize that change is something that's positive. It's not a threat. It's an opportunity. He made changes that he needed to make GE more flexible and competitive. And he made change part of GE's shared value. what are reasons that a finance organization in your company might want to change? Well, similar to GE, high finance has to constantly change to be fast and flexible. Have to keep up with the competition, and finance is a key part of that. Organizations may want to be more agile, optimize and make more efficient your financial processes. This includes payable, but can also extend to accounts receivable, fixed assets, and other areas. Meeting internal customer demands. Your vendor keeps calling and saying, you're paying my bills late. You need to make some changes to change that activity and change the behavior. Viable growth of the enterprise and employees. A lot of companies that are going to grow, they do organically, they may grow inorganically. Either way, they are looking at ways that they can continue to grow, which in turn, say, an accounts payable organization may increase the volume of invoices, but maintain the same staffing levels and costs. These are other reasons to introduce process efficiency and automation. Don't lose sight of the fact that it also helps growth of employees. Employees doing tactical work day after day can become stagnant, and they may desire more. Taking some of the automation and attributing that to technology rather than having folks do this repetitive work, you're able to give them an opportunity to grow as an employee and look at other ways where they can become more analytical or do some more interesting work. About people, look at how change affects people. Everyone. And all agree that change is here to stay. With competition and, of course, ever-changing technology, ours is changing more rapidly than ever. So we're going to have to know that change is here, and we're going to have to continually keep up with it. How successful organizations are is really dependent on how we manage that change and how we enable our employees to adapt to those changes. Whether it's personal life or business life, change has an emotional element to it. In business, we don't always like to acknowledge that. But understanding those emotions is really critical to developing robust change management strategy and ensure any initiative that we have is successful. I just had a few points on the slide. Organizational change causes anxiety and frustration, so that's a fact. It's not human beings to resist change. Every person is going to react and respond and adjust to that change differently. So there are models out there that can help us to manage those changes that people go through, manage the emotions, manage the reactions. One of them that I like to use is the change cycle model, shown here. And the change cycle model has 6 stages that individuals can fall into during the change process. Necessarily that they're sequential. Not everyone comes in at loss and moves to doubt or discomfort or discovery, but it's just to recognize that there are the various stages or behaviors associated with that. The one area that I'd like to focus on is the danger zone. And it's real tricky in here. This is where people have kind of come on board. They're not so doubtful anymore, but there's still a lot of anxiety around making a change. They're asking questions about what's it going to do to my job? Am I going to have a job? Things of that sort. It's really the danger zone where you can lose people and they can revert back into some of the earlier stages and really infiltrate negativity throughout the organization. You want to be careful and target your change management strategy with people who are in that area. If you can move them out of that stage and into the next stage, they become your change advocates. A really important place to focus on. Understanding where people are and what their behaviors are, you're able to tailor and customize your specific communications and training activities to individuals who are showing these behaviors. So this we talk about developing people and getting them through this change. We're going to do that by developing a change management strategy. Let's start by talking about the fact that change is a process and an event. And the key point that I hope that all of you will take with you after the webcast today. An end. It's about change really doesn't end and process. It's a continuing continuously changing evolution in and of itself. So a strategy is a way to align the organization's people and culture to changes that are going on in business strategy, processes, and technology. It's us, as said, of a structured and thoughtful way, organizational goals, your mission, your objective, and your culture. And find a set of tools and techniques enabling management of the people side of initiative from a very tactical level. I agree to change requires us to be very tactical and have a practical approach. So we have theory and all of that is nice, but we really have to get down to the nuts and bolts of how we're going to, person by person, group by group, from organization for change. So this tactical approach that I developed for an organization that was going through an accounts payable transformation. And I put my strategy into 4 main areas. And although each of these pieces of this pie, stakeholder management, training, ongoing support, organizational alignment, they also interact with each other very much. And of course, communication is at the center of all of it. What interaction is, let's say that our stakeholder assessment, we do that multiple times during the course of our transition. And people change. People's view change based on training activities or communication activities that we've conducted. Someone who is resistant may no longer be resistant. So with that, we have to continuously take the pulse of what's going on in our organization and adjust either our training or communication, organizational alignment to that change in their behavior. So I'll talk about each one of these pieces individually. Data management. This is really a foundation. 4 different groups or categories to decide stakeholders. Those governance, users, influencers, and providers. Knowing that there are other categories that are more relevant for you. For example, executive management, or indirect change targets versus direct change targets, external customers. Make it real to your organization and relevant to your organization. This instance is really talking about people like PMOs, steering committees, executive sponsors. These are people who are really going to be interested in how things are managed on the project. Going to be interested in communication tools and vehicles and methods such as status reports. They want what kind of controls you have in place. They're interested in timelines. They're really interested in risks and what your mitigation plans are around those risks. The people who might fall into this category are your internal or external auditors or regulators, depending on your industry. These are your direct change targets. These are the folks who are going to be touching, feeling, using the system. Everything you design in terms of process and or technology, these are the people who have to execute on a day-to-day basis. If your training and communication is really going to be targeted at this group. Next, influencers. Influence can be as broad as a union, someone who can change the course of your project. It's really to define an influencer. A real-life example of an influencer internally might be you're trying to sell the business case to your decision maker in an organization. You need to optimize accounts payable. And CFO just isn't convinced that the business case you're providing is the way to go and that he wants to make the investment. But you find that this individual, and this is a real-life example, is off with the procurement manager on Fridays. And you might want to talk to that procurement manager about some of the benefits and him talk to the CFO, because sometimes indirect influence can get us a bit further than direct influence. So, and one reason that you should really look at people who have influence and may not be directly impacted by the project. Providers. I expect this is where vendors fall in and suppliers. And you might target a communication to folks like this. So if you have a change in imaging, for example, and now you're going to have imaging and centralization of invoices and applying all the technology that goes along with that. You want to communicate to your vendor that you need an invoice to be in a very specific format now. By automation involved in PO matching, you might want to contact folks and let them know that either A, you need to have the PO number on the invoice, or there needs to be some other tags to be able to match these. I want to move over to training. Training is pretty self-explanatory. There's only one area that I want to highlight that I believe gets overlooked, and that's the project team. Of focus and attention that gets placed on training our end users. But initial change catalyst and change agent on a project comes from the project team. Make your project team has the skills that they need not only to execute their role in configuration or process design or whatever it might be as part of the project, but so that they understand how to be a change agent, because they're the front line. Next, on support. Why is it important? Well, it's important to make sure people can execute, of course, but it's important to handle that emotional side of people as well. People need that security. They need to know that through every part of this transition, including after a go-live, if we'd like to call it that, they have a place to go for resources, have support, going through this change, but they're not going through it alone. So this can come in the form of, say, a help desk or something like that. But it's also important for them to have user groups and a lead user community, because sometimes folks feel more comfortable taking that direction from people who are going through what they're going through. So rather help desk or people who are on the project team, a peer-to-peer exchange can be really beneficial. Talk about organizational alignment. It's critical to know their job roles and how they're changing. It's important to make sure that there's formal updates to job descriptions and the introduction of KPIs and goals associated with the project into individual PMPs. This is a good motivator. Consideration of outsourcing as an organizational decision comes into play in this area. And give a company ability and enable them to use their current resources, relocate them to another area that might have a different value to them in terms of their core business. So location, highlighted here in the middle, is so critical that I've given it its own slide. It's the core of change management and the change management strategy. It's critical that you understand your stakeholders, stage they are in the change cycle or something similar to that, and what training needs are, and have a targeted strategy based on that, with communication tools and frequency involved that you plan and execute based on those elements. It's important to tie the frequency and the messaging and the tools to the needs and the emotional place that we're in. I overstate the importance enough of a robust, detailed communication plan. Although this is one plan that has to be very fluid. This goes to where people might move back and forth in the change cycle. They may change from resistors to acceptors. There's a lot of reasons that you need to keep this fluid. There are changes in the design, and you have to re-communicate. Find any key elements of effective communication. Please keep in mind these effective communication tips. Most of us are aware of the 7 C's. Clear, agree, correct, coherent, complete, courteous. We all learn those at some point in our lives. A more concise version, and have used this for various AP transformation initiatives. First, comprehensive. Be short, concise, and understandable to your audience. Really target the audience. Be credible. To create impact, you need credibility. By including facts in the message, or in who delivers the message, stand on that. If you have facts and communicate those facts to your audience, communicated by someone who does not have credibility in the organization, then you sabotage the effectiveness of that message. So make sure you have the right people delivering the message. Don't overlook that. Form a connection with your audience in order to gain like an emotional response. Some response at all from them would be great. Of the message is important to executing this. So say that you have a group of AP analysts and processors in a room, and you start talking about the benefits of cash flow benefits when it comes to an AP optimization. They're not going to respond. But if you're sitting face to face with your CFO, he's going to be really interested in the message that you're conveying. And deliver the message in a way that makes people share the message. There's no better way to promote a positive response and a positive reaction to the changes going on. Have people walk out of a room where you've just given a town hall or a lunch and learn and go to their desks and talk to their peers in a very positive way about that. So get them excited, build support in your organization. There are risks. So what is of not being effective in your communication? Well, you're going to mix messages, confusion, negativity, acceptance, and hurtful lack of trust from your executive management team. If you're not active with your communication with them, it could impact the current project, or it can impact approval for future projects and future optimization. I'll leave you with this quote on this slide from George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem in communication, the illusion that it has taken place. You could have newsletters, posters, luncheons, training, anything. And if people didn't understand, if people didn't get the message, then you really haven't communicated. You just think you have. It's very important to listen to people, to read nonverbal cues from people, and formally get feedback via questionnaires, assessments, things of that sort. So don't be shaken by the illusion that communication has taken place. Really document and understand that it has, confirm that it has. So by the bit, we've covered enough to say that it's become clear to why we need change management, why we need a strategy around it to ensure that AP transformation initiatives can be successful. I've highlighted a few more here. The most important points I want to share with you is that you need to build commitment. And to do that, you really have to prepare people for the change. And if you cannot, you're going to deliver real improvement. If you don't have a change management strategy, well, you can read all of these, but the bottom line is it increased costs because you're going to have people engaged, you're going to conflict, you're going to slow the process, and really if you've invested $140 million into an ERP implementation, let's say, and people don't know how to use it and they don't want to use it, you've wasted $140 million. Keep in mind, change itself doesn't achieve business results. People produce results. Technology alone does not. We talked about some of the theory, why you need a change management strategy, what that might look like. There's a technical side as well. That change management tools come into play, and I've placed a lot of these here on the screen. Those are tools that can really help you create a targeted change management plan. Data assessments, posters, communication plans, lunch and learns, your training courses, change dashboards, keep people informed. That's really important, and be creative. It's the right tool at the right time for the right people. So now we talked about some of the key elements of change management itself. I'm curious to know the emphasis that your organization places on change management. May I take a few minutes to answer our poll question?
Well, thank you. And we have a question here for our audience, and we hope that you just take a moment and record your answer on the right. The company or organization places a focus on change management activities, door decisions involving process or technology. Please take a moment and provide us with your answers. I see they're tallying up right now. But we still have some coming through, so let's just wait a moment or two. it's almost 50 split. We're seeing 52% are they do, in fact, place an emphasis on change management activities. Is that Kathy?
That's great. A change, it in and of itself is a change. A lot of companies don't place an emphasis on that. The fact that it's 50-50 shows improvement in where we've been in the past, but also tells me that we have a long way to go. I would like to see that number being at 75 or 80%. I'm also to see that people have an opinion and that there's not too many people who aren't sure about that. That tells us that you're really on the pulse of what your companies are around change management and the investment that they're willing to make in it. So a few examples of how change management tools and theory that we talked about can be applied to an AP optimization initiative, such as the one described earlier. Before that, I want to just take a moment and set the stage for this. Although this is a cartoon, I think the message is very real. This is some of the reasons an organization chooses to change their AP function and a solution to enable that AP optimization. The decision makers are very comfortable making decisions around process changes, automation, and maybe even changes to their staffing model. Employees and their stakeholders say, come on over here, we want you to use these new systems and processes. For many organizations and providers of these services, don't tell you how. So the action of a robust change management strategy and execution of the detailed tasks at a tactical level can be managed to cross gaps. Really what change management is, and that is the secret ingredient for success. In slides, I'm going to talk you through the application of the change management theory that I shared and apply it to the CBPS steps of AP optimization that I presented earlier. So just a refresher, this is what the full AP optimization model looks like. And we're going to take a look first at an example that might happen in those first stages when you're proving the case for change. So by saying that these next few slides, they really provide examples of the challenges that you may face and some tools that you can apply. This is not meant to be exhaustive, but just kind of to walk you through a process that you might look at in your own transitions. And then vary organization to organization. Start with this scenario, which is proving the case for change. You're in your organization and you make the decision to centralize and digitize. So this scenario presents some of the biggest risks, but some of the biggest rewards, in which you can make a case for change. That's the example I'm going to use here. So what are the challenges and opportunities that we have? Well, build that business case, have a secure budget and resources. And this is important is a lot of organizations at this point, a lot I've worked with, have a perceived mission of letting go of control. And I say perceived mission of letting control because once they understand the value, they realize they actually have more control. So change management tools such as benchmarking, presentation facts that demonstrate a shift to automation can really remedy pain points for people and add value, ways that you can gain trust and eventually obtain executive sponsorship. That trust will help to address the concerns that people might have of making these changes, whether it be having centralized invoice receipt by an internal group or an external group. The emotion attached to things like let go is really important in how you position and how you communicate. What's the risk of not having a strategy around this? Without questions, certainly you might end up with the status quo, not having the project approved. So that's very successful. We've obtained sponsorship and we've centralized and digitized. Now we're going to go back to our sponsors and say, we'd really like to take the next step to a more automated model, and we want to optimize our labor organization to go along with that. the points that I shared with you on the previous slide are still relevant. I just want to highlight something new that would come up in this area. The focus in this transition is the end user, the person expected to execute these new processes every day. In addition to being aware of the level of resistance to change, it's really to think about the training aspects of change strategy at this point in time as well. So some challenges you might have are concerns about risk and control again, but now from a more personal, more technical level. Staff concerns about job security, which has emotion tied to it. Concern about their own ability to perform. Are they up to the task? Will they have the right training? Will they have the right support? This is to get people comfortable. Do assessments. Get people engaged. This is a great opportunity to invite people to be part of the solution. Ask them to be lead users. Ask them to be testers. Right people engaged in the design process. If you make people part of the solution, they won't be a problem. The risks of not having a strategy around this, decline in activity can be exaggerated from what the standard expectation would be, and be staff exits. So some of these things are inevitable. The important thing is that you want to be prepared for them and have an action plan to address them.
I see that we do have a write-in question. If we could just take a moment. Say, in your experience, who usually leads the change process when AP departments are looking to implement AP improvements?
I'm going to say that it depends. So it depends on what the structure of the project is and where it resides. At a high level, change management function and sponsorship can come from a few places. It can come from IT, depending if that's where the project rolls up, come from finance. From a technical perspective, it can come from your project management team. And in some cases, you could have a designee from your own organization lead a change management effort as a business owner or a process owner on the project, and partner with your internal communications and training teams to execute a really great strategy. I've seen all of them work. The most successful has fallen under finance, an internal leader versus a consultant per se, as a team, really engaging people from a tactical level. So the framework is a little bit hard for people internally to put together. The value that the internal team have is really on that peer-to-peer trust relationship piece. So now we're going to make an assumption that we've centralized and digitized, we've introduced automation for workflow and approvals and exception handling and all those great things, and we take our organization to the next level. So we want to enhance our vendor relationships. We really want to get the engagement of stakeholders outside of AP, such as treasury or procurement. And one of the challenges might be complacency. People start getting a little too comfortable and may not get interested in continuous improvement. Some of the key tools we can use here are demonstrate all of the advancements that we've made in these other stages through fact reporting on improvement, KPIs, the benefits that have been achieved by making the other changes, and really is the best case for future change, the success of the changes we've made today. For things like a vendor portal, mobile applications, letting people see the tool itself can be really valuable. And what are the changes integrated into the operations because people become complacent, continue to change. People think, well, we did this and now we're finished, so we're finished with this exercise. We can revert back to the way we did things before. So you don't want to lose all the progress that you made along the way. And of course, would not realize optimal results. So your money and unrealized optimization in the full P2P process on the table, because some of these things might be perceived as nice to have instead of value added. About an AP change initiative that your own organization is considering or going through now, thought to what you think the biggest change management hurdle you would expect is.
So I'd like to hear from our audience here today. And the question we have for you is, what is the biggest change management challenge that you expect in transforming your AP function? And log your answer on the right of screen. Up here, we'll just take a moment or two more. We have a few more minutes. Okay, a second or two. All right, here is B, change target end user resistance. Are you surprised by that?
Especially not given the fact that people said that there was, in the previous poll, that there was support for change management activity. So rule out things like executive sponsorship and the budget, because I would expect that you would get that if people are interested. The change target and end user resistance, I think that just comes back down to what we talked about earlier, is it's human nature to resist, and it just demonstrates more the importance of making sure that you have a strategy in place to address the risk associated with that. So I'll share with all of you a case study from a project I worked on, and I'm just going to say the company was a consumer goods company. They were implementing a new technology and processes associated with that and organizational alignment, and it included accounts payable. Some facts around this, I want to stress this. The technology, the process, the organizational changes were equal in its rollout. The only difference was which business groups were going first. In the first phase, there was a lot of development and configuration, and there were some budget overruns. So a decision was made at a higher level to cut change management, everything. There was to be training, but everything else associated with change management was being cut. So you might expect was not good. There was resistance, adoption by the end users, which there was rework, there was post-go-live configuration changes because you didn't have the right people engaged in the design, in the user acceptance testing, until people went live that they found things that weren't configured properly. There was retraining, and the irony is change management was cut to offset budget overruns and resulted in costs that even exceeded those overruns. So it didn't help. Us went to our CIO with a business case, said we can't do this again and be successful in phase 2. We were successful in getting a full organizational change team, established KPIs. We had them incorporated into folks' PMPs. We had great training. We had wonderful communication. We had managers of each of those areas. And the result was on time and under budget, a great user community that facilitated user adoption. And I share this is that absolutely everything was equal in phase 1 and phase 2, and the difference between success and failure, change management. Just take a few minutes of your time to highlight Canon's ability to facilitate change. As we talk, we provide an end-to-end solution. You can see some of the tasks associated with these in centralized, digitized, automated labor optimization, and continuous improvement phases. We provide administrative and accounting support like help desk services, GL bank reconciliation, P-card admin, et cetera. What I focus on is that when Canon finds an end-to-end process, when we say we provide an end-to-end solution, we don't stop with AP. End goes into implementation and ongoing support. It's a cartoon. It can be the bridge that answers the question of how. We have efforts in AP best practices, project management, Lean Six Sigma, but we really have a passion around ensuring that your organization continues to improve. We can provide you with a change strategy and plan to help guide you through that transition. With that, I just want to leave you with a few points to take away from the webcast. First, change is inevitable, but prepared for change is not. So I urge all of you to make sure that whenever you're engaging in any sort of process or automation change initiative, make sure you're prepared and be prepared for the unexpected. It is not driven by automation and process alone. A focus on people in change management is critical to success. Focus addresses the human side. The many change tools is vast. Select those that really meet the appetite of your organization through each phase of transition or transformation. Always consider your corporate culture. Understand your stakeholders at every level. Start at the top, involve every level. Get your executive management out there for roadshows and town halls and things like that. Engage your AP analysts and AP coordinators to participate in user acceptance and testing. Help them become lead users. That can make a difference. I know a lot. I'm going to say it one more time. Communication cannot be underestimated. Leadership and accountability. People are accountable and feel that they own the process, they're going to deliver on the process. The optimization is only as successful as the people executing that transition. And have fun, celebrate your successes. So thank you again for your time. I hope the information shared today is of value to you. And we'd now like to open up the conversation for any questions or comments that people might have.
Questions for the audience? All right, well, any questions at this point? That does conclude today's session. And I do also want to thank our audience today for joining us. We hope you did find today's program insightful and helpful. If you have any additional questions for Kathy or would like to learn more about how Canon Business Process Services is helping other companies do AP transitions and change management, please contact us directly, and we do have Kathy's email on the screen here. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so very much.